G'day guys, welcome back. My name is Wildkard. The Reds versus Brumbies. The top two teams in Australia going at it again for the second time in 2022. Round 7 Super Rugby Pacific. This time, Suncorp Stadium. Last time, the Brumbies actually squeezed out a win over the Reds in a game at home where I thought the Brumbies actually play really poorly. And this game, the Brumbies play pretty bad. Like you wouldn't believe that this team that was on the field today is the number 1 team in Super Rugby rankings right now. So this was a pretty subpar performance by the Brumbies team. Obviously, they did have some injuries with Tom Banks injured. I think they also had who else was injured? They also had Lolosio is out. So they are missing a couple of key players on the field, but the overall performance of this team I thought was not very good. So yeah, this is a bit of a wake-up call for the coaches to really have a good look at the team. I've kind of talked about the Brumbies being really poor in the last game against the Reds. They haven't really been challenged all season by the other Australian teams. And then when they played against the Reds, it really started to show a lot of the things that they thought they were good at didn't really work as well as they did. Especially in comparison to the what they were able to achieve with their forward pack, with their set pieces last year. This year is like the dominance in the set pieces of the Brumbies is simply not there anymore. So this was another game that is a little bit of a weird game. This was the 50 Super Rugby cap for the Daugunu and Valentini. Rob Valentini and Filippo Daugunu, both of them getting their 50 test cap. And this game had a lot of penalties. 3 yellow cards, 1 red card. And I mean, it's really like the way the commentators portray this is as if there's an issue with the way World Rugby with the law, or the way they interpret the law with the referees. I think more of a fact is actually the teams need to really look at themselves to tidy up some of these unnecessary yellow cards. There was so many stupid stuff that should not have happened, like Tupou tripping somebody in an offside position, blatantly putting his hands up, tripping someone, sticking his leg out to trip Nick Wife, and got himself a yellow card. Like, that is really unprofessional. And there was another one where the Brumbies player knocking the ball on, deliberate knock on, and again, really not necessary. I mean, that's probably like more understandable because when the ball is right in front of you, you have that reaction to try to touch the ball with your hand if you have the opportunity. So the Brumbies number 23 coming off the bench did that, got himself a yellow card. There was another yellow card against the Brumbies, Rob Valentini, for a bit of a high shot on McDermott, who kind of like ducked into it. I thought it could have just been a penalty. He did like hit him on the head, but McDermott totally like ducked himself into it. So I thought that should just been a penalty. Yellow card might have been a bit too harsh there. And then there's the red card for the Reds against the Reds. There was a what was it? What happened? Who was it? Actually just completely mentally blanked out who had the red card. I think it was Tua Lima. He was basically cleaning out Jem's slipper and shoulder charging him in the head in the ruck. We saw this quite a bit, and yes, it's a red card by current law. Yeah, I thought maybe the Gems. Yeah, I thought it probably looked worse than it actually was. The incident. It was a bit of weird positioning where slippers like in the ruck. There really isn't anything else for the cleaner to clean out on. I guess there's not really a target except for his head. Essentially, the way he was positioned in the ruck. So it was a bit unfortunate, but yeah, the law is a red card. Good news is that it's only a 20-minute red card, so it really didn't hurt the Reds that much. And Brumbies, on the other hand, despite the Reds having a red card, were not able to capitalize. In fact, letting the Reds score a try during the red card period when they had a man up was really poor for the Brumbies. And overall, I thought the Reds showed dominance in pretty much every aspect of the game. Had the game in playing the tempo that they wanted to play, putting the Brumbies off their gear, off their pace, and the Reds had a much better overall structure in their attack, much better structure in their defense. The breakdown is more heavily contested by the Reds forwards. The Reds forwards really did a lot of work in terms of winning this game for the Reds as well. The scrum, overwhelming dominance for the Reds, especially going towards the second half. Just penalties almost every time. Absolutely dominating the Brumbies reserve props. The kicking game was better for the Reds as well. We're able to get those territory, get those better kicks. And then also the lineouts. The Reds was having better lineouts than the Brumbies, which was something that Brumbies is, a bit surprising, since the Brumbies, especially with the Maul, the Brumbies Maul was pretty much stifled out every time and just completely shut down by the Reds defense. So it was really good work by the Reds. Lots of very high work rate by the Reds 4-pack. And you can really see it, especially going towards the second half. The Brumbies were just getting more and more lazier in the breakdown contest and, giving away a lot of penalties in the second half. So I thought, like I mentioned, overall the Brumbies, I thought this was like the worst performance, at least for this year for the Brumbies. I thought they were pretty poor last time they played against the Reds, despite they won the game. This one was even worse because last time at least the Brumbies had the the superior kicking game on their side. Despite not being able to execute the set pieces last time. This time, they didn't even have that kicking advantage, the superior kicking game. The Reds completely dominated the kicking game. And then the combining that with their already disappointing line-out options, their scrummaging was poor, the breakdown urgency was lacking, and the overall pace of the game that was played by the Brumbies side is noticeably slower than the Reds. You can see the Reds are playing a higher rhythm, higher speed than the Brumbies throughout, especially more noticeable in the second half. So yeah, overall, the Reds 2 tries to 1, 21 points to 7. This is one of the biggest margins in the last 3 or 4 years between the two teams. Usually comes down to 2 to 3 points. This time, it's quite a big margin for the Reds. Absolutely dominated this game. As you can see, the results, 2 tries to 1, and a lot of penalties for the Reds to really put themselves ahead of the Brumbies in those key areas like the breakdown, and the scrummaging, where the Brumbies really giving away a lot of the stuff, a lot of this, the free points to the Reds. So I do think some of these stats is a little bit wrong, but you can see that the Reds did dominate the Brumbies in the kicking, something that the Brumbies were able to do last time they beat the Reds. One of the key areas they lost in this game. The lineouts are kind of overall okay, but the key is that the Reds were able to stop the Brumbies rolling more again and again and again, and getting the turnover as well in those key areas really didn't help the Brumbies. The execution by the Brumbies lineouts is really poor this game, I have to say. There was one time where the rolling ball went over the try line and they were held up, and there was lineout not thrown in straight. Knox Lonergan, again, he's been professional rugby player for so many years now, and he's still not able to throw a straight line out. Really need to work on that. Last year, he's already had that issue. Another year's gone by, and he's still having that issue. Not able to just do the simple job of throwing in the line out straight. So I was, not really impressed by that. Penalty count, 11 points apiece. The halftime, the Reds given away 8 penalties to the Brumbies 5. So in the second half, the Reds clambered down their penalty count to only 3, whereas the Brumbies ballooned themselves to 11 penalties given away. So 1 red card, 3 yellow cards overall. So let's go through a quick summary of the game, I guess. So basically, right off at the beginning of the game, both teams, the scrums actually look quite even right from the beginning. The Brumbies scrum obviously is literally the Wallabies starting front row, quite even. Bit of 50-50 going back and forward, but slowly you can see the scrum shifting to the Reds' dominance. And then eventually, eventually in the second half, the Reds were just overwhelmingly dominant over the Brumbies scrum. The Reds gets the first penalty on the ball 30 minutes of the game due to a scrum penalty, despite the Brumbies actually getting the first scrum penalty for themselves. There was something that I noticed was interesting, is that they had Panta Paisame playing in the outside center position, and then they had Hamish Stewart for the Reds playing in the inside center position. Despite this setup, it seems like to me, Hunter Basami was still playing out of the 12 position, and Hamish Stewart seems to be playing on the 13. So I found that a little bit weird. Like, especially in attack, it's pretty obvious. It seems that Hunter is at 12, but in defense, I think they have Stewart at 12, which is his actual jersey number. So it's a little bit weird. Like, sometimes you see where Hunter Basami is positioned on the field. I found this a little bit interesting. Also, Hunter Basami seems to be building his kicking game a little bit. He was offered to kick a couple times in this game, as to build on his kicking option. I mean, that is something that the Australian teams likes to do out of that 12 position as well. So it's a bit interesting to see him have the number 13 on his back, but he's taking the kicking duty like he will be in that 12 position as a second 5'8" at times. So on the 19th minute, there was Andrew Merton, Jinx Lockie Lonergan, Jinx Ryan Lonergan, where he was like right in front kick and he just jinxed him. I just said he can't miss this one 90%. He's going to get this one 90% of the times, and then Lockie Lonergan missed one right in front, which was really funny to see. Eventually, on the 22nd minute, the Brumbies gets their first try on the board. Basically, this is literally like the first game, the first. I think this is probably the only time the Brumbies attack looked good. They had a number of options playing left and right. It looked like they had basically the number 10 because Lolosio is missing. So they basically had like the number 10, Rodney Iona, playing on one side of the field, and then they had it looked like either Ikitau or Uri Simone playing as like a second 5'8" on the other side. So there was some really good attack organized on both sides of the field. But eventually, Ikitau got the ball. He fed through like a little short ball through, I think it might have been for Tom Wright or Jesse Mogg. I can't remember exactly who he was. But he did like this nice little feed through, and Brumbies makes a break, right? And then basically following that momentum, Brumbies just keep on piling on pressure. Eventually, they found Clark on the wing with just a really nice little series of play. Following that, little momentum through, and then finds Clark on the wing, goes in for the first try for the Brumbies. So this was actually a really good attack for the Brumbies, getting the points on the ball. 7 points to 3, Brumbies gets ahead. And then the Reds was able to pull back 3 points on the 30th minute with a penalty. And that's basically how the halftime ended, 6 points to 7. The Reds gets red carded just before halftime though. I think this was around the 35 minute or around then, maybe it was earlier. But the Reds gets red card. So basically the Brumbies had the end of the first half and the beginning of the second half to play with an extra player on the field. And then they were basically not able to score points. So it was really, really disappointing for the Brumbies to see having a player advantage, not able to score. In fact, right off from coming off out of the sheds, the Reds clearly had a chat in the sheds, came out fired up, just completely firing up all cylinders. In fact, only taking 2 minutes for McWright to go in for the first try for the Reds. And still at this point, the Reds are still having under the red card. And Brumbies just look completely shell-shocked coming out of the sheds. Really did not look good. In fact, 8 minutes into the second half, Brumbies gets himself a yellow card. Before the red card even ran out, the Brumbies gets himself a yellow card with basically the swinging arm by Valentini hitting McDermott in the head. McDermott completely ducked into it. I thought that was probably a bit harsh for the yellow, but yellow it is. And suddenly it's down to 14 on both sides, and you can clearly see that the Brumbies are just not really able to cope. They weren't able to really pressure that advantage they had. Now that with a person like one of the players in the yellow card, despite the Reds is also playing a 14 player at this point, they're just completely not able to coping with the situation at hand. Brumbies Moore was they tried to basically go for a try on 51st minute, and then Moore just completely failed apart. 5 meter line out, completely not able to execute that. On the 58th minute, the Reds gets another penalty. They basically So the Brumbies discipline really started to hurt them. Reds gets himself ahead 16 points to 7. There was a lot of penalties given away by the Brumbies, offside and at the breakdown. It's just really, really poor. Like, I really don't know what's going on with the Brumbies team here. It's really starting to see these things start piling up against them. And then on the 61st minute, the Reds, again, on the front foot, attacking. James O'Connor tried to throw like a cardio pass to the winger. One of the Brumbies reserve, number 23, deliberate knock on, yellow card. So again, just penalties given out everywhere. It's just really, really, really poor execution by the Brumbies at this point. 64th minute, the Reds is literally just able to piggyback in the Brumbies a lot of their penalties. The Reds were just really putting the pressure on following these penalties. On the 67th minute, another huge scrum for the Reds. Another huge scrum for the Reds, getting that penalty for the Reds once again. So this was a scrum for the Brumbies. They had their own defensive scrum, not defensive, no, they have their own scrum feed inside their own 22, and the Reds just absolutely destroy that scrum, putting the Brumbies in the back foot. Valentini gets the ball out. He gets basically tried to pass the ball away, wasn't able to. He kind of gets tackled and throws the ball back, and the ball basically gets fumbled on the ground. And then the Reds players rushed up and reclaimed the ball. Again, it shows that the Brumbies just not really able to keep up the pace. They should recover that ball, but the Reds were able to get there first. Just you can clearly see there's more urgency out of the Reds at this point. They recover the ball, gets the ball out. A few phases later, the James O'Connor throws this nice cardio pass, perfectly judged over the defender of the Brumbies player. Dargunu catches in the breadbasket, has his hand up, knowing he's going to score a try already before he's stepped over the try line. Easily runs in for the Reds. Second try of the evening, 67th minute. And then after that, for the last 3 minutes or so of the game, the Brumbies had one of the lineouts thrown in, not straight. Lockie Lonergan. Like I said, I genuinely don't know how you could be a professional player and not for so many years now, still not able to throw that line out in straight. 72nd minute, another scrum penalty for the Reds, and then it's just really starting to show the Brumbies reserves are not really up to the same level as the Reds. And then there was small handling errors as well for the Brumbies, just not really able to build any continuity at all, despite the fact that they desperately wanted to get a try on the ball at this point. On the 78th minute, more penalties against the Brumbies at the breakdown, and then the Reds just basically took the penalty in 5 meter for a 5 meter line out. The Reds weren't able to execute, but the Brumbies had enough. Finished the game 21 points to 7 for the Reds. So I've kind of talked about the Brumbies, like I said, a few weeks ago when they played the Reds last time. I do think the way they play, the attacking structure from the Brumbies is really lacking. It's really one-dimensional, really predictable, and they overly rely on their kicking game. So it's pretty obvious. It's the kicking game. It's really over relying on it. Basically, when the Reds is being able to put out counter kicks that's better than your kicking game, you basically it leaves you end up in a situation where the Brumbies they're not able to apply pressure, and then they're just constantly under pressure, and they try to play the kicking game, and when doing so, it's putting themselves under even more pressure, and they end up just piling up penalties back to back, and then end up having the game slipping away from them. So that's basically what I thought was happening. Let me know your thoughts. I do think that the Brumbies needs to probably look at the kicking options a little bit and try to play a game strategy and less, have a strategy away from the kicking. It really showed there. If that fails, you need to have a plan B, right? They really didn't have a plan B in this game. So let me know your thoughts on this game. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. Like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you for being here. And see you guys tomorrow. Cheers.